Hey guys. So today we're going to continue with our drawing basics unit. So far we have covered spheres and cubes and rectangular prisms. And so today we're going to talk about uh, two shapes, cones and cylinders. And these shapes are very commonly seen as building blocks for more complex forms. So we're going to start with the cone. So to start with, just start with making some angles. And these angles are going to have a point at the top and be open at the bottom. You're trying to get these two sides as even as you can. So you come across, I'm going to make some that are tall and skinny, and some that are like short and wide, just various shapes and sizes. And I'm trying to get these two sides to match as well as I can. And so here you're going to be doing that sort of light, sketchy sort of emotion. So down here, we're going to do a few more that are a bit bigger. We're going to turn these into triangles. And just like with the other pages, follow along with me in your sketchbook. If you need an extra minute for something, just pause it. And if you don't yet have your sketchbook, do this on whatever paper you can find. But save that paper so you can glue it into your sketchbook later and keep it as a reference. Because that will help you when we're talking about, shading in a form and cast shadow and things like that. Because I'm going to just kind of proceed throughout the year as if you have that information. So make sure you keep this. So with these three here that I've got, I'm going to come along and make them into triangles just by adding a horizontal line across the bottom. But this isn't a cone yet, right? Those are just triangles. So first, I'm going to just kind of make a very light vertical line down the middle. I want to make sure these two sides are even. They look about even to me. I might, there, bring that tip up a bit. I'm going to do that with all of them. Just kind of make sure both those sides. Okay, well, I screwed that one up, I think. It's okay to make mistakes. That's why we have erasers. Let me just try that whole thing again. Okay, so I've got my angle. I'm going to put my horizontal line across. I'll put my vertical line so I can kind of check and make sure that my sides are about equal. I'm happy with that. So I'll make a vertical line here. I think this needs to come out just a hair. Like that. And so there we go. We've got three triangles that are equal on both sides. So they're symmetrical. So I'm going to come along and add just a little curve to the bottom. That's going to make it look a little bit more like a cone, right? Because a cone has a round base and then comes up to a point. If you have something like this that's a triangle with a square base, that would be a pyramid, which is not what we're doing. So you're going to take your favorite one of these and just kind of draw it a little bit larger below. But this is how you kind of check and make sure that you've got the right shape going on. It's not a form until you shade it in, really. So I got that same sort of thing going on. I've got my angle and I've got this rounded bottom, and that is going to make it a cone. So, and again, like when we were shading in the other shapes, we had to figure out where our light's coming from. So my light's going to come from over here. Okay, so my highlight, the lightest area and the lightest value, because remember, value is how light or dark something is. We're going to talk a little bit more about value next week too. But my lightest value is going to be this edge right here because that's facing the light. So the light is hitting that the hardest. But the edge here, if you think about a cone, this edge, this area here is going to be blocking the back. So the back cannot receive that light. So this is where our darkest value is going to be. So I'm just going to start building some value back here. Remember, it's always best to start light. You can always go darker later, but it's a lot harder to go lighter than it is to go darker. So you want to start light and just kind of build it. And like with the other shapes, I'm just doing this kind of light circling where my little circles are overlapping with each other, because that's going to give you a smoother sort of a look than if I was using, say, like, diagonal lines all going the same direction. So I've got like kind of an even tone here. So I'm going to darken it up a bit more as I get toward the back, where that area of our cone is not getting as much light. So if you think about these areas of the cone, you're going to have, let's see, here's a cone. So this area is going to be very light if my light is coming from this way. And this area here is going to be really dark. And this is going to be in the middle. But we don't want it to be like a very harsh separation. We want it to be kind of gradual. So that's why I'm coming back and kind of adding a bit more here, because I want it to just gradually get darker instead of having like stripes. And so I'm going to add a little bit of a cast shadow. Our light is coming this way, so this area is going to be blocked out on the ground because it's being blocked from receiving any light. So our cast shadow is going to go that way. So this area underneath here is where our darkest value in the whole thing's going to be. I didn't mean to do that. So here we go. So I'm just going to start kind of adding a little bit of shading. I can always make it darker later. And my shadow is going to kind of come to a point too, because it's going to kind of mirror the shape of my form there. So I can just kind of darken it up as it's getting closer to my form. So there we go. We have a cone. And that's it. So once you've gotten to this point, you're ready to start on the cylinder. So a cylinder, we're going to start with a rectangle. So we're going to start off just by drawing a rectangle. So you remember we start off with a set of parallel lines. It's kind of light and sketchy. Then another set on the top and the bottom. So here I'm going to do like a little short, wide one. Then I'm going to do like a tall and skinny one. Oh, geez, forgot the top and the bottom. You can tell it's Friday, right? I think we are all very ready for this 3-day weekend. So there we go. We have 4 rectangles here. So how are we going to turn those into a cylinder? So do y'all remember the ellipse that we talked about? Let me see. It's in this other sketchbook because I have too many. Here it is. So you guys remember the ellipse, right? That we talked about? So you remember with an ellipse, it has rounded edges, and if you quarter it, each of those quarters is going to be about the same. So we are going to put, and the top of the, if you think about like a can of soda or a can of green beans or whatever. So if you look at it from the top, it'll be like this, right? It's a circular top. But we're not looking at these cylinders from the top. We're looking at them from the side, a bit at an angle, kind of like this. So we want for the top to be like this, where it's an ellipse. So we are going to put an ellipse on the top of each of these. Okay, sorry, technical difficulties. So I'm just going to put an ellipse at the top of this. Remember, we don't want the ends to be pointed. We don't want it to be pinched. We want it to be even all the way around. Now at the bottom, I'm going to curve this bottom to be as parallel as possible to the curve of this. I want it to be kind of even. So like that. So, and that's just it. That's a cylinder. So I'm going to come across, I'm just going to do it to all of these. So we've got that. And just like with that coffee cup, how tall this is going to depend on, and there go the lights. There we go. How tall that ellipse is going to be is going to depend on your angle to the cylinder. So you might have one where you're looking at more from the top. And so you're going to have a really a taller ellipse. And then this is going to be a little more pronounced too, because we want it to mirror this. And as you're firming up your lines, you can kind of blend this into here so you don't have like a little point. So let's do this last one, and then we're going to do a big one down below. There. So now we're going to choose one of these shapes that you want to do, and or one of these shapes. Choose a cylinder that you're going to draw down here. And we're just going to follow the same process in a larger scale. And when I say scale, I'm referring to the size of it. So a large scale drawing is a big drawing. Small scale drawing, it's really small. So I'm going to come across with my horizontal lines there. And that's Okay, I'm adjusting to try to make sure everything's straight and square. Okay. So there we go. So I've got this, and I'm going to add my ellipse. I'm going to curve the bottom to kind of mirror that. Ah. And so I'm going to clean it up a bit. I'm going to get rid of those horizontal lines because I don't want them to show. They were just to help me kind of build the form. They're not, I don't want them to be visible. So kind of erase those. I can firm up all these lines here. And so I'm going to figure out where my light's coming from. And I think this time I'm going to have it coming from here. And so these areas are going to be getting the most light. And so with this, you've kind of got two things going on. You have a flat side, like you have with the cubes. And with the cubes, you didn't have a lot of you didn't have much of a gradient going on that flat side. We can maybe have a little bit of a darker value, like over around this corner, but it's really not going to be much. Um, and then here, it's going to be more like this, where you remember how we had these kind of, light, middle, dark. This is going to be kind of the same way. So with a sphere, oh my gosh, I need this weekend, y'all. So with a cylinder, it's going to be kind of the same way. You're going to have like a lighter area, a middle area, a darker area if your light is coming this way. So I'm going to start building that value over here. And I'm just going to start off light. I can always go darker later. And we're going to be giving you guys supply kits whenever supplies come in. They have been ordered. And everyone's going to be getting a supply kit with their own personal supplies. But until then, we're going to be doing everything pretty much in pencil or pen. So we're going to be doing a lot of pencil drawing this year. So please, if you take nothing else from this video, remember that you can always start light and work your way darker, because it is so much easier to go darker than it is to go lighter. So we really want to just use a very light pressure with our pencil and just slowly build. And it takes patience, but like it's really worth it. The results are so much better when you can have that patience. So I'm going to come just a little bit because our light's up here. So, the shaded area is extending a little bit into that space toward the bottom, but not a ton. I'm just going to slowly start to darken some of these areas. So it's not all the same color. We want it to slowly get darker as it gets away from the light. So when you're doing this sort of thing, you need to constantly just be thinking about where the light is. What is it hitting? Because when you're drawing in pencil and you're drawing in black and white, you're not drawing objects, not really. You're drawing shadows. You're drawing shadows and highlights. So look at where the shadows are and make those areas darker. And don't think about what the object is. that you're drawing. Because those shadows and highlights are what make up those objects that you're thinking about. Okay, so now time for a cast shadow, right? So if our light's here, it's hitting here, that means it's going to be blocked off from hitting the ground about here to here. So that's where our shadow is going to be. So I'm going to just come and do this dark bit right underneath our cylinder. That'll be our darkest value. And then we'll start with a light shadow, and remember, it's another one of those things. We can always darken it up later. So you don't want to come in just like digging into the paper with your pencil. You want to use a light, soft touch. So we're just going to slowly add a little bit of very light value to this whole thing. And then we can come back in and, I'm going to fill in some of these areas that don't have full coverage. I'm also going to work on darkening kind of the middle area of this and where we're getting closer to our object. As we get further out, it's going to get lighter. So there we go. I think we've got it. So once your paper looks like this, just snap a picture and attach that to the assignment, and that's it. So, and these are all of the simple forms we're going to cover in this unit. So next week, we're going to work on putting some of these simple forms together to make more complex forms. So I'm going to show you all how these can be used as building blocks for something that is more complex. And then once we've done some of that and we've talked about value a little bit more, then we're going to tackle that still life again. And we're going to see how much your skills have improved since learning these techniques. So thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you guys have an awesome 3-day weekend, and I will see you Tuesday.